Cindy. Don't forget to hit the like, share, and subscribe. And before we get started, we want to look at what does it mean, the First Amendment. What is the First Amendment? Before we jump into the chat yelling First Amendment, let's slow this down. The First Amendment is not a vibe. It's not a slogan. It's a law, and most people don't actually know what it protects. It protects you from the government, not from criticism, not from consequences, not from private companies. So tonight we're breaking down what your rights really are when they apply and why they suddenly gets ignored when things get uncomfortable. If free speech matters to you, stay right here because facts matter more than feelings. And as far as freedom of speech in regards to the media, freedom of the press, media can report news and investigate government actions. No government censorship just because it's critical. And freedom of religion is government can't force a religion on you. You're free to practice or not practice any religion. And freedom of speech is you can express opinions without government punishment, especially protects political speech and criticism of the government. So we're going to jump in. We're going to hear from what's going on
and tell you that federal authorities arrested Lemon in LA last night. His attorney says while he was in town covering a Grammy Week event at the Fairmont Century Plaza. Federal officials say the charges stem from an incident on January 18th in which Lemon and dozens of anti-immigration enforcement protesters they rushed into a church in St. Paul, Minnesota. The group allegedly interrupting the service there that led to tense confrontations. While it's not immediately clear what exact charges he is now facing, federal prosecutors have argued the disruption crossed the line into interfering with others' rights to worship. Lemon says he was there in his journalistic capacity documenting what was happening. The case is raising questions now about where the rights to protest end and press freedom begins.
Shameful. It's shameful to interrupt a public gathering of Christians in worship. So, but there were proposals. I have to take care of my flock.
Listen, we live in there's a constitution and a First Amendment to freedom of speech and freedom to assemble and protest.
The protests unfolding inside the city's church in St. Paul, where an ICE official also serves as a pastor there. Demonstrators chanting ICE out. Lemon and his attorney say he was there as a journalist reporting on the confrontation, speaking with people involved. Attorney General Pam Bondi publicly warning that the administration will not tolerate attacks on places of worship. Federal prosecutors originally sought warrants for 8 people, including Don Lemon, but a magistrate judge signed off on just 3 people, not including Lemon. An appeals court also refused to expand that. Now, prosecutors appear to have taken the case to a grand jury, and they've come back with charges against Don Lemon and a Minnesota-based journalist who was also there covering the protests. Want to read you this statement this morning from Don Lemon's attorneys. It reads in part, this unprecedented attack on the First Amendment and transparent attempt to distract attention from the many crises facing this administration will not stand. Don will fight these charges vigorously and thoroughly in court. This morning, we can also tell you that LA Mayor Karen Bass is posting about this on social media, saying this is an attack on First Amendment rights here, saying this is also an escalation on the tense situation unfolding in Minnesota. She's now says she's in correspondence with the U.S. Attorney's Office about this case. Again, we are working right now to figure out what time Don Lemon will be making that first court appearance here in federal court today. Of course, we'll pass along those details as soon as we receive them. That is the latest for now here live from the federal building. I'm Omar Lewis. Frank and Jess, we'll send it back to you.
Well, we're waiting to hear from the courts, and a lot of people have a lot of opinions. I'm surprised that he hasn't been arraigned yet, that we haven't heard. He hasn't been released. So he's still waiting, I guess, to go before the judge so that he can probably post bail. But this was just so surprising because the Trump administration was trying to tone down, and calm all the rhetoric and everything that's been going on in regards to Minnesota. But look at where we are today. Now with Don Lemon being arrested, and then they said that they were gathering, like it was supposed to be some secret gathering of this pastor supposed to be part of, don't quote me, but he's supposed to be affiliated somehow with the ICE agents. And anyway, they were supposed to maybe somewhere, and they got caught of the information, and people went into this church to protest. So anyway,
This
This is
is
what
an
he's saying.
operation that is secret, that they invited folks out.
This is Operation Pull Out, more of a clandestine operation. We show up somewhere, they don't expect us to come there, and then we disrupt business as usual.
So right now it's kind of mayhem. We're not part of the activists, but we're here just reporting on them. Did they explain to you why they're here?
They did not.
They said that there's someone here, Easterwood, someone who is a member of ICE, and he's a pastor of the church.
Our church had gathered for worship, which we do every Sunday. We asked them to leave, and they obviously have not left.
So this is what the First Amendment is about the freedom to protest.
There's a varying array of views in this church on politics of immigration. Recognize the complexity of the issue.
This shows you just how divided America is. When you look at the protesters here, and then you look at the people there who are praying, and you know what was the interesting thing? If these two groups could just get together, they might figure out what to do.
I don't necessarily agree with everything that's going on in the Twin Cities right now, but I don't think it's good to fight fire with fire. I think it's good to speak up, and I think it's good to protest, but I think it's better to do it in a peaceful way.
Yeah, that was interesting to watch. This guy here, look.
That was inside the church, and Don Lemon is an ex-CNN host, and he is known as a journalist. So I guess what the debate, America's debate is, was he being a journalist or was he being a protester? Now, to my understanding, he's a journalist first, and he was there to cover the story, because you have news reporters, to my understanding, they follow the news no matter where it is happening at, whether it's war, whether it's going to a hospital, a police district, or wherever the case may be. Their jobs are to get the news. And so that's called reporting. And as far as the freedom of the press, he's supposed to be, and any journalist, they're supposed to be protected, because he didn't arrive there as a protester. I do believe there's a video I'm going to show that he's chanting about Renee Good, but he's an independent journalist, but he wasn't there to protest. He did interviews, and he conducted himself that way, and he has strong opinions, just like the rest of us. But I think that Don Lemon is not the only one that was arrested. There was a 3-time Grammy Award-winning journalist that was arrested as well. I think her name is Georgia Ford. So she was arrested as well. So it's like 4 of them, I believe, that are in prison now. So I guess the big debate is, America's debate, like, are we so divided between parties that, even though he is the left, he is a journalist, but this democracy? It's like when we start shutting the mouths of the press, and it looks like it's the federal government, then people start wondering, okay, if they can do that to him and to the reporters, then they can do that to anyone. If they don't like what you're saying, then they can go after you. So there are many different points of view.
I think it's the right move. We obviously talked about this issue back when it happened. It's pretty clear in the FACE Act that you cannot impede others' right to worship. He was embedded with and organizing with this group. He was not just following them around with a camera. In some videos, he can be heard chanting along with the protesters. He deliberately interrupted the pastor to interview him, while his interview was basically him just defending the protesters interrupting this church service. And so to me, he was an active participant, and that went beyond journalism, and he became a protester and obstructed those parishioners' right to be there worshiping God.
I mean, I completely disagree. I think this is an obstruction of the First Amendment. Don Lemon was actually there documenting the experience. As you've seen Don Lemon as an independent journalist in recent months since he left CNN, he's been out and putting himself in the center of whatever is happening, the most pressing news of the day. And so he was following an organization that he understood where they were gathering and followed them all the way to the church through what he said his account. I guess we'll see how this plays out in court, but he says he was following and documenting. And as people that understand and what journalism is all about, there's somebody who is a leader of a church who's giving a sermon probably about acceptance if it's a Christian church, because that's what the Bible teaches us, to accept people that are different than us. And so the fact that he's also preaching that, but then also running a local ICE chapter, people had questions about what his incentives are. It's a natural question that a journalist would ask. So Don Lemon asking those questions, to me, is not illegal. Don Lemon following a group of...
I think it's the right move. We obviously talked about this issue back when it happened. It's pretty clear in the FACE Act that you cannot impede others' right to worship. He was embedded with and organizing with this group. He was not just following them around with a camera. In some videos, he can be heard chanting along with the protesters. He deliberately interrupted the pastor to interview him while his...
Well, this is like, I want to hear what she had to say again, because like they said that the pastor was connected with the ICE agents, and they said that they found out that they were having a meeting. So was this like a Sunday church service? Or was this an actual meeting that they were having inside of the church? Because the church does have other meetings other than on Sunday gatherings. So, like, were they there to meet? Because it's like the protesters found out that this was going to be a meeting regarding ICE and ICE agents, and the pastors in favor of ICE or connected with ICE. So they found that out. That's how I believe that's how the news journalists found out what was going on. So the protesters and all them, they went inside the church, because what they're trying to say is, though it wasn't a regular church service, but it was a meeting. And so he interviewed some of the people in the congregation. He interviewed the pastor. So, but he was still arrested. So I don't know, as far as the law, if it's right to have him arrested, because he was in disagreement with how the ICE agents' actions have been going on with the two killings of two United States citizens. So people are really, on edge about what's been going on, because this is supposed to be about keeping America safe. And when you have Americans that are being injured, then you're going to have the protests. You're not going to get around it. But let's hear from Jesse. I think that he could put it a lot better than I can. And this is going to be a debate. I'm waiting for Don Lemon to be released, because I cannot wait to hear what he has to say.
Regard for the First Amendment, wiping his ample ass with the document and our freedoms. Yesterday, Donald Trump, maybe it was the shadow president who actually controls the Department of Justice, directed Pam Bondi, the person in the position of Attorney General, to arrest a group of black people, journalists, and Democratic candidates for office in this election. Don Lemon, I tell you what, I'll just read Pam Bondi's little tweet for you on the Nazi website. At my direction early this morning, federal agents arrested Don Lemon, Traherne Jean Cruz, Georgia Fort, and Jamal Lindell Lundy in connection with the coordinated attack on City's Church in St. Paul, Minnesota. More details soon, she says. Everybody knows Don Lemon. Don Lemon is a journalist. Don Lemon is now independent. He's no longer with CNN. He has a YouTube channel, but it doesn't make him any less a journalist. Georgia Fort is a journalist. These other two individuals, one, Jamal Lundy, a Democratic candidate for the Minnesota State Senate, a current candidate for office. Traherne Cruz, also a former candidate for office. This is Again, the day of reckoning that Donald Trump promised, the retribution. This is a distraction because, one, it's very unlikely this is going to go anywhere. This is just harassment under the weight of the power of the Donald Trump administration, of the Justice Department, and almost unlimited resources to harass and harangue. This is Don Lemon's statement from his lawyer, Abby Lowell. Don Lemon was taken into custody by federal agents last night in Los Angeles, where he was covering the Grammy Awards, because that's what he does as a journalist. He covers things like the Grammys, but also events that are historic and absolutely newsworthy, like the protest, like the occurrence that took place in that church that was pastored, by the way, by an ICE Nazi. Don has been a journalist for 30 years, and his constitutionally protected work in Minneapolis was no different than what he has always done. The First Amendment exists to protect journalists whose role it is to shine light on the truth and hold those in power accountable, something Donald Trump is absolutely allergic to. There is no more important time for people like Don to be doing this work. Instead of investigating the federal agents who killed 2 peaceful Minnesota protesters, the Trump Justice Department is devoting its time, attention, and resources to this arrest, and that is the real indictment of wrongdoing in this case. This unprecedented attack on the First Amendment and transparent attempt to distract attention from the many crises facing this administration will not stand. Don will fight these charges vigorously and thoroughly in court. Absolutely a disregard, a trampling upon the Constitution of the United States and our First Amendment rights to redress our government, to peaceably assemble, to raise our voices, and also a protection for the free and fair press, of which Don Lemon is a member. Georgia Fort is also a member. On Instagram, journalist, 3-time Midwest Emmy winner. She's a journalist. Her website, she's a journalist. She is protected. The other 2 are also protected under just the auspices of what is normal and decent. They are Democratic candidates. This is weaponizing government against them, using the force and the power of the Justice Department, of Donald Trump's fascist regime to harm them. In fact, George Fort yesterday, there's video of her on the phone with federal agents in the dark of night, peeking into her windows. She is alarmed. Of course she's alarmed. They've murdered, they've executed citizens in the street. Why would she feel she has any more protection than those individuals?
They were peeping into
her
window.
Those rights, none of our rights are safe. Watch this, and then we'll move on. She went live on Facebook to talk to her viewers, but first, I think this is critically important to show exactly what their tactics
frightening. You can't even call the cops. They are the cops.
Yes. Okay. Okay, well, this is really scary. There's kids in the house. You guys have not been really friendly in the community. And to me, this seems a little, can I finish, sir? Can I finish? Can I finish? Get your phone. This seems a little bit aggressive to have all these cars in our cul-de-sac, 2, 3 agents, and now I saw the one disappear to the back.
Wow.
So to me, this is a little aggressive to just serve a warrant. Slide the warrant. Let me see the warrant. Okay, and that to me, what I have been told, is not a judicial warrant that has me to have to open the door for you.
Kids.
Did they break in?
In the house.
Oh my God.
Worried for their safety. Worried for her very life. She should be. It is good that she documented this. It's good that she took to Facebook Live to tell her followers, to get this on the record. It makes me think, I hope I have the presence of mind if the feds show up at my door to go live on YouTube or wherever to get this on the record, because you can't delete that from the server. Once it's out there, it's out there. So good for her.
It's like we have to have some sort of, I mean, right now the temperature's too high. You know, I know you guys are just people that's just extremely hateful. You know, you're just extremely hateful. I mean, these are journalists. She's a 3-time Emmy Award-winning journalist that was at a church documenting, covering the story. Now, if you could take an independent journalist, I don't even know whether to call him a journalist, like Nick Shirley, and these are professional journalists, Emmy Award-winning journalists, and they're going through all this, reporting the news. They were reporting, and reporters go wherever the news is at. They go, if it's at a daycare, if it's at war, if it's at the White House, that's where they go. So do they still have freedom of speech? I think going to her house because she was reporting a news story and with a warrant with her kids there and taking her in the middle of the night, and the way that they tried to arrest her like she's some sort of criminal. She's not a criminal. It's like we're going, they are targeted. These people are being targeted. And I'm not even saying I agree with them. I'm talking about the principle of all of it. I'm concerned that she has a 7-year-old, a 6-year-old, a 17-year-old children in the house. And you know things could go left right away because people are trigger happy. And there's always a defense because they'll always say if something happens, she was resisting arrest. Oh, I thought the kids had something in their hands. There's always excuses when guns are fired. So I just find that, I think that they should have said, look, we have a warrant for her arrest. Like I've seen before, they allow people to turn themselves in. Why didn't they give her the opportunity, or Don Lemon the opportunity, say that they have warrants for them, that we need y'all to turn yourselves in? If you don't turn yourselves in, then we're going to come and arrest you. What happened to that? They went into a church. I'm a Christian. You know, I don't think that anybody should have been protesting inside of a church. But were they having a church service, or was this a meeting? Because churches hold meetings for other organizations and things like that. That's what they do. And they said the pastor's connected to all of that. So did they interrupt them, actually having a service, or were they having a meeting? But they followed them in. They followed the protesters into the room, into the church. But I think that they should have allowed, if you're American, you're sensible, and things have been happening, I'm quite sure you don't want Americans to be losing their lives. Okay, I don't care how red you are, how blue you are, but hey, be beholden to God and not to man. How about that? Because God is not about red or blue. He's about serving Jesus, okay? Serving our Lord and Savior. But I think that they should have told them that they have warrants for the other 3 people, including Don Lemon. We have warrants for your arrest. And we want you to turn yourselves in. And that's how this should have been done. They weren't wanted for murder or rape or enter the country illegally. They're journalists, and they were covering the news. They were covering the news. And this is going to be worked out. But that's why this is like America Debate. What really bothers me is that she's a mother that was home with her children. And you have these ICE agents in full gear surrounding her house. That's a lot. In the middle of the night. That's a lot. That's a lot. That's a lot. It's scary. It's intimidating. And then they arrested her, I believe, in front of her children. So that's the only part about this that I really don't like, is her case. Now, Don Lemon, he's a man. He's getting arrested, after the Grammys or whatever in his hotel room. But I think they should have given her an opportunity to say, we also have arrest warrants for you as well. We need you to turn yourself in. And this way you could have spared the children and everyone else involved, because it can be traumatic. And we care about children like we say we do, even though we got 300,000 missing children, nobody talks about any longer. But anyway, I think they should have had an opportunity. So it's really a great debate that's going on, because where does it cross the line as far as freedom of speech?
CNN anchor Don Lemon was arrested early Friday over the anti-ICE protests that stormed a Minneapolis church during Sunday service, according to his attorney and Attorney General Pamela Bondi. Don Lemon was taken into custody by federal agents in Los Angeles, where he was covering the Grammy Awards. Lemon's attorney, Abby Lowell, said in a statement shared with multiple reporters. He was one of 4 people arrested by federal agents early Friday in connection with the coordinated attack on City's Church in St. Paul, Minnesota, Bondi later confirmed in a statement. Lemon, who had been documenting the increasingly violent protests following the shooting of Renee Nicole Good, live-streamed himself alongside demonstrators with the Racial Justice Network storming into the city's church in St. Paul, Minnesota, as they called out resident pastor David Eastwood, whom they accused of moonlighting as the acting field office director for ICE in the North Star State. Some service disruptors chanted slogans heard at the dozens of other protests that have wreaked havoc around Minneapolis, while others specifically slandered Eastwood for supposedly misrepresenting the ideals of his faith through his support for ICE. Lemon spoke with the congregation's lead pastor, Jonathan Parnell, who said the bombardment was shameful.
I mean, this is unacceptable. It's shameful. It's shameful to interrupt a public gathering of Christians in worship.
The Department of Justice announced a probe into the demonstration at the church for potential violations of civil rights laws, specifically for interfering with Christian worshipers, according to a post on X. Harmeet Dillon, the Justice Department's Assistant Attorney General for Civil Rights, chided Lemon on social media. A house of worship is not a public forum for your protests. It is a space protected from exactly such acts by federal, criminal, and civil laws. Nor does the First Amendment protect your pseudo-journalism of disrupting a prayer service. You are on notice, she wrote. In a follow-up post, she noted that the FBI had been activated and accused the protesters of desecrating a house of worship. Lemon had dismissed calls for him to be prosecuted for joining in with the group and defended his actions as protected under the First Amendment. The MAGA administration and the fake news MAGAs are losing their mind over something that's not even true, Lemon said, claiming he had no affiliations with the organization, defending his actions as, quote, an act of journalism.
This is like crazy. It's like, I don't know. It's like we have to allow our reporters to be able to report the news, whether we agree with them or not, whether they are Republican bias, have Republican biases, or Democrats, or whatever the case may be. And you can agree to disagree. You don't have to go along with what's going on just to go along to get along. But when you start arresting journalists from reporting the news or covering the news, it's just a hard divide for me, because we don't want any government to silence our voices, because if they can do that to them, what about United States citizens who aren't journalists? Or, what happened to freedom of speech? I don't know. I don't believe they should have been arrested for that. I believe that there's other measures that they could have taken, but I don't think they should have been arrested for something that happened weeks ago.
Are saying that they are trying to form a dictatorship. Well, look at the landscape. Arresting Don Lemon, who covered a protest in Minneapolis, is just insane, ridiculous, dictator-like. This is the playbook that dictators use to destroy democracies and take the will of the people away. It is as simple as that. The First Amendment is the First Amendment for a reason. It is considered the preferred amendment when you have to start balancing what's more important. The framers of the Constitution knew that a free press was essential to a democracy. Without a free press, you don't have a democracy. And it's real clear that Donald Trump and company doesn't want a free press. The idea that a journalist, which Don Lemon has been for 30 years, would walk into a church and film a demonstration which is of national interest, and then to say somehow, when you watch the video, they say he's part of the protest. Watch that video. He is covering the protest. He is covering it. That's what journalists do. I covered riots. I was a local reporter in Los Angeles for 15 years, and I covered riots and floods and earthquakes and all sorts of things where I had to step into areas where there were police, where there was activity, private property. When you're covering an event like this, like a protest, which I've covered many, you step into it. And that's what journalists do. And that's what Don Lemon did. The idea that the Justice Department is saying he walked onto private property, that is insane. A church invites everybody in. Have you ever seen a church with a no trespassing sign saying no journalists allowed? Have you ever seen any house of worship that says that? It is insane that they're making this stupid argument transparent. And yet a grand jury indicted Don Lemon after a magistrate said there is insufficient evidence. Well, a grand jury will indict anybody because Don Lemon doesn't appear before the grand jury. Abby Lowell, his lawyer, doesn't appear before the grand jury. The Justice Department says what the Justice Department wants the grand jury to believe, and almost every time they believe it. It's all the way it's skewed. This is a ridiculous assault. And I don't want to say just on the First Amendment. It's a ridiculous assault on democracy. Trump administration should be ashamed of itself, but they're not. And they will continue to do this. And they are going after journalists. They're getting search warrants for their homes. It is obvious what's happening in this country, people. Look at what is happening. You're going to look back in 2 years if somebody doesn't stand up to them, and I know people are now, but you're going to look back in 2 years and say, wow, we didn't see that coming. Well, Neville Chamberlain should have saw it coming, and he didn't. And we don't want to be in that position. So wise up, everybody, because it's obvious what's happening here. This is an outrage.
I don't know. This is like, is this an outrage? Well, let me see what some of you guys have. The TMZ has no credibility. Okay. MAGA, you should show just how unchristian you are. You show just how unchristian you are. Okay. Should Don Lemon have been arrested? 57% said yes and 43% said no. I want to, okay, I'm going to end that poll. So that's amazing that more people, they say that he should have been arrested. And like, why? Why should he have been arrested? He wasn't the only one in there. Like, why should he have been arrested? It's like, I don't think he should have been arrested. Because this is what journalists, this is what they do. This is exactly what they do. Let's see Cash Jordan, his take on it. You know, because I like to get both sides, everyone's sides on this issue, not just like the Republican side, not just the Democrat side. You know, listen to both sides, and this is how people can come together in some sort of understanding. So when you have an opinion, you don't have the opinion, just don't make an opinion, just listen to one side, because that's how we do. Like when I'm just straight down ballot Democrat, only thing I would listen to, just everything the Democrats had to say, but nothing that the Republicans had to say, nothing say the independents had to say, just straight down Democrats, whatever they said was the gospel. You know, so you want to listen to both sides. This is how you have an understanding of and have a better perspective individually, because it's only your personal opinion that matters. is not trying to convince the world to agree with you, because people can agree to disagree. But where do we draw the line in the sand? Like, what's going on? This is the first 30 days of the new year. And to me, it's been tumultuous. I mean, it's been so many things happening with capturing the Venezuelan president Maduro and his wife and bringing them back to the United States and criminally charge them, to the Renee Good losing her life, leaving 3 kids that are orphans now, and now Alex, what's his name, Petri or Petty or something like that. And they said, I didn't watch it because I don't want to see things like that. They said he was shot 9 times. Jesus Christ. You know, and then like, so they sent Tom Holman, pull Pam Bondi, and now they said for Tom to come in to have more peace. You got to get the peace. You know, we can't just keep this going on and on, because it continues to escalate. As soon as it seemed like they were getting together, Trump was pulling back, let the people settle down, and then this happens. So now people stir back up. It's like 1,000 stories now about Don Lemon being arrested, because he's the headline. But Georgia Fort, she's a 3-time Emmy Award-winning journalist. It was other people that were arrested as well. So it's like everybody's talking about this because it matters. Because we're going to have to decide, are we going to change the Constitution as far as the First Amendment? Because a lot of people don't even know what the First Amendment says. If you go back and listen to the beginning of this live stream, after I end this stream, then I just quote some of the First Amendment. And so people have an understanding when they have an opinion. They say, okay, well, this is what the law says. So that really matters, what the law says. But I do want to catch Don Lemon. I know he's in California, so, it could, I don't know when they're going to release him, but I know he's going to be speaking to the media. I do want to catch that. So you guys don't forget to hit the like, share, subscribe, turn on the notification bell, because this opportunity that you can talk to each other, you can chat it up. Like the other stories, you just see people's opinions, but it's not live. This is live, and it matters. And hopefully I will catch him live once he's released, because I know there's going to be a big news conference, because this is a big deal in the releasing of the others that were arrested. So this is a lot. And I think that we need our officials, our elected officials, you need to call your congressmen and congresswomen and let them know, like, we want them to do their job and bring the peace back to America. This must be the president of peace. Peace. So this should be at the forefront for everyone that's following Trump. He's the president of peace. He's ending wars. This is what he says. Well, we have a war going on in Minneapolis. He has to be the president of peace in Minneapolis, right here in the United States of America. Not over there in Argentina or over there in Ukraine and Russia. He has to be the president of peace here, because he needs to calm down what's going on. And these congressmen and women, they need to have a meeting and come together, because it has escalated. It continues to escalate. And it's like whoever's in power are the ones that are attacking the other party. Like, it's like whoever's in office, Democrats in office, they attack the Republicans. The Republicans are head of the administration, then they attack one another. And we're caught in the crossfire, whereas we need them to have a better government for all of us. I want them talking about the interest rates, the inflation. I want them to talk about living wage jobs. Over 500,000 is saying Black women, since he's been in office, has lost their jobs. This is a big freaking deal. If you talk about the employment rate, I thought that he was going to have more jobs for Americans, not less. Because he was saying that the people, with his first term, he said that he had the highest Black employment rate than all the other presidents. It was like 8% or whatever. No, it's 8% now. Unemployment rate is extremely high right now. So it's like we're moving backwards from his first administration. So there's other things that we need to be looking towards and making things like we have RFK. I like what he's doing as far as having Americans eat healthier. Like, let's do stuff that's going to be healthy. Let's, those 500,000 black women that lost their living wage jobs, replace them with other living wage jobs. Replace them. That's targeted for a race of people. There's no getting around it. So there's things going on that we all don't agree with, but I don't think that we're heading at this point in the right direction as Americans that we should be. We have a president of peace, then it should be more peaceful. All this National Guard stuff, all this ICE stuff, yes, people that enter this country illegally and they got criminals that's running around, they allow ICE should be allowed to do their jobs, but it's how they're doing it, because they're going to the communities and American citizens are getting involved and things are happening that no one's predicted what's going to happen. So I don't think this is what Trump wanted, but this is what's happening. So there needs to be a serious meeting with those that are elected into office. It's like we're watching everything and we can't do anything about it but watch. But when it comes time to vote in this year, and when it comes time to vote in 2028, everybody's taking notes. Everyone's going to remember everything that's been going on during this administration, just like everything that went on with the order pen in Biden's administration. So they need to be aware of people are not happy right now. They're not happy with all of this. So hopefully we get better. Thanks you guys for joining this live stream. Don't forget to hit the like, share, subscribe. Please share the video. But what I want to catch is when Don Lemon goes live. Hopefully he'll go, the time he goes live, I'll catch him and we will jump back on here, because I think that, you know, we need to talk about it. And that's what this is about. Let's talk about it. You know, whether he was, I believe that I would feel some type of way if I was at church and my pastor was preaching and these demonstrators, see my shirt, I belong to church 2819, and people would come into the church while my pastor was preaching or giving a word. Was he giving a word? And then the protesters came in. I wouldn't appreciate that. I would like, okay, that's out of order. But what was actually happening? So when we get more of the information, what was going on, that they decided the protesters decided to go into church. It wasn't the journalists. They followed them in. Why did the protesters feel as though that it was right for them to enter into the church? And if the news journalist wasn't there, we wouldn't have had it. We wouldn't have all this information. They reported it. So anyway, you guys, thanks for joining. Don't forget to hit the like, share, subscribe. Go to my other channels, Speak to Sports. So pray to all here and subscribe to those channels as well. God bless you guys. TGIF. Thank God it's Friday. But we're going to see how this unfolds. And I guess when you get more information, like right now, to me, it's not enough information to say who is right, who is wrong, or are we doing too much? Is there an overreach? You know, I think we need more information before we start pointing fingers at everyone. But we do want the First Amendment upheld of freedom of speech. I do know that much. Anyway, God bless. Peace out.